As usual, we'll start with the small and then we go big. Using of the upper function, the lower function, the round function, and the floor function. So I'm going to paste all the examples as I go. Let's see. Upper function, lower function. These are the built-in functions that are. Today we're going to see if we can make our own function as well. So upper function, lower function, round, and floor. And I think there is a sealer as well. A very simple example, select upper, and if you give it a lowercase value, let's see what it does. If you do this, it will convert a lowercase value into an uppercase value. So this function is very good at that, right? And at the rate symbol will stay as it is because there is no uppercase. That's why when you give email address, whether it is lowercase or uppercase, at the database end, when you're trying to sign in into your Yahoo or Gmail account, if by accident you have typed your email address in the uppercase or in the lowercase, and you think, oh, I should type it in the uppercase, or if you typed it in the lowercase and then you think, I might type into uppercase or something like that, some scenario at the server end, when it receives this data, when you click the submit button, it actually converts the column to an upper column. So all your confusions will go away and database will be looking at one type of data, which is an upper. If, for example, for a reason you want to change anything to a lowercase, you will just change it a lower. And then if it's already a lowercase, really doesn't matter because it's already a lower. But if I'll change this to one first character as a lowercase, it will convert every single character that it find in the uppercase to a lowercase. So it really standardizes, which I like, is that if you take user input, just like for if you are putting some usernames input into the database table, standardize your rows, whether it will go an upper row or whether it will go a lower row. As you see, this is proper case. I think there is function called proper as well. Let me check and refresh. Oh, I have so many tabs open now. That's why I hate that. I can close that. Okay. Thanks. It's called proper. You may have to write a custom function for it to make it a proper case, but the uppercase and the lowercase is there. But if you want to have a first letter of the first name, first letter of the last name to be proper, then you can change it here. It won't do it here because there's a dot here, but you will have to individually go to that field and make that. So you can write a function for it if that function is not here, that you can convert a name into a proper name, or you can just quickly Google how to convert the name into a proper naming convention. This is a little different in Oracle. Keep in mind, SQL Server provide you a very easy way to do these functions and select any function. In Oracle, keep in mind, if you are doing something like this, you have to say called dual, which is not existent in SQL Server, so you will not find it. But let's say if you are doing the same thing in Oracle, you have to add this for every single function that Oracle has. You have to say from dual. In SQL Server, you don't have to do it. You just type the function name, let's say upper, and here, and then you say from dual. That is an Oracle way of doing it, but in SQL Server you don't need to type it. You will just say uppercase and it will just convert into uppercase. So that is an uppercase and lowercase example. They are available for you in module 8. You can try that out. Now let's look at the round function. Select, and this can happen. So I can just say select. I'll just finish this topic off as well. Uppercase, and then the name of the column. So sorry, C dot last underscore name from customer table as C. This is just an alias of it. So when you run this query, every person's name is now showing up in the last name format. I'm just showing up one column. I can just put C dot star, and then it will show me every other column as well. But keep in mind, when you use a function or a summation or aggregation, SQL Server loses the column name. So I can just say as last name. So you have to mention it specifically, otherwise it will lose it. Now, if you run this, let's run this query. Last name is coming up in the capital letters, but the actual table column value is proper case or a small case mostly in here. So you just have to keep in mind, just in case if the requirement is, oh, it has to be in a capital letter, then you can do this. But you can, let's say you are printing out a report or something, but if it is a small case or already in this proper case, you don't need to worry about that. But some scenarios you might need that. I think username and username, I don't care about password, but the username can always be inserted into the database in the uppercase, so all the confusions of user entering whether it's an uppercase or lowercase will go away. Let's look at the other functionalities while I'm here. I'll say I can check the round and floor functions on my own, but I will just pick up a column to do that. So I'll say leave it at that, and then I'm going to change this. So I'm not going to show all the columns now. I'm going to just say a new function called round, and let's say which function, which value I want to round. So I want to say I want to round it into one decimal place, so 20.68. So I will just see the balance right now, which is currently selected. I'll say C dot balance, and I'll select that. Then the other thing that round function require is a 2-parameter function. So it says to what decimal place you want to round it to. So I'm just going to round 20.68 into one decimal place. So I think it should be 20.7 when I run this. 20.70. It is still showing me 2 decimal places, but the value is rounded up, just like the function. So how to avoid that? I'll have to check that out. But for now, just confirms that everything is rounded up. And if I want to just show one decimal place, then I'll have to see 1,1. Let's see, it shows me one decimal place after that. No, it doesn't. So I'll have to Google some things just to see if I can avoid this 0 at the end. I just wanted to, I was expecting to be printing out 20.7, but I'm not going to worry about that. So rounding does the rounding of a number to the upwards. So floor will do the rounding it down. So if I'll say floor function, and floor function just accepts one parameter, which says here, if I run this now, it is rounding it down. So 20.68 is actually changed to 20. Now, whatever was the second guy has, it's changed to 90, or if it was 90 point something, it is changed to 90. So you lose the decimal point here. There is another function called, I think, not discussed here, seal. I spell it right. It's not here. Oh, maybe it's a C# function, so I'm just confusing in that. So floor, seal, floor, seal, lower, upper. These are the small functions that we just looked at. Important function coming up. Add certain number of days to a date. We'll see that if we can do it, because which table has the date in it. So let's say invoices. If I say, that will be a very good example to show actually. We don't have any date here, so we know that example of this is our SQL Server date function. So if I want to say, usually at the end of the report, if you're printing out a report, usually at the end of the report you say that you have 30 days to pay this using net 30 or something. That is like a agreement between you and the invoice, that you will pay this bill in 30 days. So if you want to remind someone at the end of the invoice that when it is getting printed, you will have something called how you are going to be doing that. So let's say, so I will create another column, comma, and there's no problem that I create the column on the runtime. You have always created the column on the runtime, right? When we are using case statement, we created an extra column, so we can create an extra column for our extra information, and that is, you can call it a derived column or calculated column. So we are going to create another function called calculated column or something, but we'll see that date add, this date add function. You will say that pick up this date and then add 30 days to it. And then you also have to mention, I think, 30, but you have to also mention what is 30. Is it an hour? Is it days? Or is it weeks? So you need to also mention that. So I think you'll see D. And I am forgetting what's the sequence of it. So let's grab that. And actually, it's a good one to look at. Let's look at that. And will not be so. Oh, okay. Because I use Visual Basic Script, C#, and all those languages, Python as well. All these different languages has different way of adding the date. So in SQL Server, you will have the interval that you want to enter. If you look at the general syntax, the number that you want to enter, and the given date. So let's straighten it up. So I will say I want to add D, I want to add 30 days, and I want to add this to the invoice date, and I'll get rid of these extra. So now it is good, and let's say as net 30. This is just an extra column that I'm getting, that this is what we are requiring everybody to abide by. So if I'll say this, it actually added 30 days to my actual invoice date column. Now my my customer has to abide by this and pay this. So I can add 30 days, or I can say if I want to go back, what was the dates 30 days back? So I can just say run that and run that. So what was the day? So it is actually going to add 30 days minus to it as well. If I say, okay, no, I don't want days, I can subtract month, and I don't want to subtract 30 months. I just wanted to subtract 1 month from the current date. So I can go -1 and run that out. So it will subtract not 30 days, but it is subtracting obviously 30 or 31 days. I don't, I'll have to check that out. What was the date one month prior to it? So depending upon the leap or whatever, I'm not worrying about that. It's a calculation that SQL Server is doing. So this subtracts and get me month. What is that? I want to add 1 month period, regardless whether it's the 30 or 31. I can just do that, or +1 or not. And then if I run it, it will going to be adding that. So if I'm going to look at it, there's a lot more functionality available. If you go here, what do you want it to do? What kind of interval? If you want to type year, or I think year or day, it's up to you how you want to write it. I usually type 1 letter, but if I want to add a day, if I want to add an hour, if I want to add a month, I can type M. Doesn't matter. This is just a way it is being, and the number, which is the required parameter, how much you want to add, and actually you want to add it in a given date. So it will give you the desired result, and you can select this. So you can pass it a given date, so it's not explicitly a table. You can change it to a date. So this is the date 2017, and if I want to add this 2 months to that day, it's actually changed that day to 10. So I said okay, and I can change it to get date. So get date, what it does. So I wanted to see what will be the date if I add 2 months to the current date. What is the current date? Run this. So 2 months from today, and it will be 30th, and it's showing me the time as well. But I can once I want to change this to a time, it's very handy. As date, and then name the column as date added. Should be right, better to look at like this. So if I run this now, I will get rid of the time. It will just show me the date that will be added, because I casted that as a date. I didn't want it to have that. And I can use convert function as well if you want to look at that. We have gone over it as well. And this is the name that I want to retain, because I don't want to just show no column name or something at the top. So these are the functions: date add functions, floor functions, upper function, lower functions, all that. There are this is a very handy function, because if you are calculating some dates and giving some deadlines to the customer or whatever, you can do that. You can say select. I think there's another one which is not as frequently used but still get used. Date difference. So it will give you the date difference between the two dates. So that's okay. I'm going to show you that in a moment. So there's a date, Control V. Given that what was in 2017, what is right now. Let's say if I want to do it between these two dates, I can do this. I don't like pink color to my column, so I just say date deferred, and I'm just going to run this, and it says that there is a 6 years difference between these two dates, and obviously they are almost equal. But if I want to change it to first of that month, it will still going to be, let's see, showing -6 years. Yeah, -6 years. So it is doing it to the best of its knowledge. So you have to look at how accurate your result is and how you wanted it to be. If you wanted it into year, month, and day exact difference format, I haven't done that. That what's the difference between current date and your date of birth in year, minutes, and second? You can just quickly Google it. You can find it. What's how many days you uh, have have a birthday passed by since your actual birth, but this gives you the difference between the two dates. I can actually have that, and I'll say, so this is the higher date, this is the lower date. It's all depends upon which date you put first. If you put the bigger date first and the smaller date afterwards, you will get the result in negative. If you put the smaller date first and the bigger date afterwards, it will give you a positive result. It all depends how you order, but you have to just check out the result, how it has been calculated. So sometimes if I just say YY, let's see, it gives you same thing. So really you saw that we have different ways of doing it. So now the difference is this, and let's say if I want to change, I want to keep the higher date up and I want to see how many days passed by this get date function, and with the get date function you still have to do this, so it will show you what's the difference here. So it's -12 years, and if I want to just say I want to see the difference in days, so give me the most accurate, should be 4,320 days have been passed. So you can divide it by 365 to get years, and then you can whatever the remainder is. So you can write a function to create to give you the dates, how many years passed by, how many days, how many months, how many days, how many hours has been passed, something like that. You can create a whole function of it. I never really had a chance to do, but it will be a good exercise. Date difference. So this is the date difference giving you between the two dates. How I can I implement this in my actual function? Let's see, because I added a date, add 1 month, and it is showing me that there's a 1 month difference. Let's just verify that as well. So I'm just gonna copy this, paste it here. Date difference between the current between the actual invoice date, and again the bigger date can come afterward, and what's the day difference between this date. So this is the calculated date. Obviously it will show me 1 month, but I just wanted to confirm that as well. So I'm going to put dates here. So this will be actually a calculated date that you are doing a calculation on. You are basically picking up the nose from the different direction, but the answer should be 1. So I wanted to see in month what's the difference will be. So if I run it, it should reflect me 1 month, right? Because I'm adding a date and getting that date. Then I'm asking that what's the difference between the invoice date and that date which you have added. Obviously it will be a 1 month difference, so this column should always return me this, but I'm just trying to play with it. So here you go, the column name is not given, so it is showing me the 1 month difference. Let's do this. 30 days difference, 31 days. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So month and days will definitely make some difference. If you give 30 days, then it will be exactly 30 days. But if you say it is right now counting all the days in between, okay, and obviously May being the 31st as well. By the time you reach this date, you will have 31 days being passed. So that is why it is giving. So keep in mind when you are developing a report, whether you want to give a 1 month to your customer to pay, or you want to give 30 days. Usually it is 30 days, right? So it is not so net 30. So you have to just make sure that how you are going to do that. Date difference can be done in day, month, year, or whatever you want to do. Sometimes you need the part of the date. I'm just going to date part. So if this is your date, and you need the year part out of it. So you don't have to write any complex function on it. SQL Server will automatically give you that 2000. I find out that the part of the year is 2017. You don't have to worry about all the others. It will automatically give you that. If you want to say, I want the part extracted out, like month out of it, this function, it will give me the 8. I want to name that. I want to name what is getting extracted out. I can see let's try that. Date name. Let's see if it likes it or not first. Maybe not. It's not going to like. So I'm just going to select this string. I wanted to say that the month is extracted, so I want, oh, Control C. Maybe I'll just say, I will want it to say what is the date part. Okay, I wanted to see if it can say Monday, Wednesday, Friday on its own. DDD, I think. So then it will say month or something like that. I wanted to see if it can pronounce what was the day on that day. I think there is a function like that. I haven't again used it. It has a lot more functionality. So let's do that last one. So date name, if I run this, 2017, it is also giving me the part of the year, but I usually prefer date part function instead of date name function. I haven't really used that, but these are few functions that we just looked at now. Date part, starting from all the way from upper to lower. So yeah, you will definitely get benefited with these if you are making reports and formatting the data. So data going into the database could be one format. Coming out of the database could have different formats depending upon how the user want to like it, right? Not user want to like it, how your management want to like to spit out the reports. So you need to be doing some formatting. So the formatting will be actually available to you on the reporting software itself, or you can extract it while you are sending it to the reporting software. The better is that you do it here and then send the data as a whole to the reports or the web page where you want to send it to. The reason being, you are not calculating it on the client side, but you are actually calculating it on the server side. That is why server side it will be much faster, and it is just processes, as you see how quickly it processes those rows, or how quickly it can create those additional rows for you as you are moving along. let's start with a small function. We are going to start a function, topic of function. So this is an advanced level topic. Usually, after stored procedure, you learn uh, how to do the functions. If you are good at stored procedure, the next thing would be functions. So function is a very powerful tool. You can do a lot of things with it. More whatever if you learn how to use stored procedure in thorough, then learning function will not be difficult. So I'm going to create a new function. Let's see. So far we see that there is a there was an upper function that we use, right? And we pass some parameters to it. Can we make our own function that can do something like that? So if I say select upper, and then I write something in it, I wrote some text in it, and then it helped, then it ran it for me. Can I write some same kind of function for my program? Yes, it will only be returning a value. So functions are of two types. Function will be either returning the one value, or function will be returning the whole table. Okay, right now we start with a function that is returning me only one value. So my function name that I want to create is called create east or west, and I am passing it a value, whatever the value is, and based on that value it is going to return me east or west printed out on the screen. Okay, and just like yeah, so when the function will start, it starts after the begin block. So you pass this value as a parameter. So you're saying that in the create function, usually the function will always be returning me a value. So as you see that, usually remember in Java, or when we learn Java, we usually have the return of a value before uh, before we return the data type of the returning variable comes here. But here it comes after the brackets open and close. So really just a positioning of where SQL Server syntax allows us that where we want to put it. It really means the same thing, that we want to return the value which is character of 4-character value that I'm going to return. So it first accepts the parameter, and then it will do something for me, and then it will return a value back. Okay, so let's look at this. What is going to happen if you provide the value? So it starts with the variable, right? It starts with the variable, and it ends definitely, because you are returning a value. Function will definitely return a value or a table. It has to definitely return a value or definitely return a table. Right now we are learning that we will be returning a value. So we call this variable that I will be returning a value which is of data type character. So one thing is that we will accept the value. The other thing that we are telling it that we will be returning the value of 4 characters. So what will be the variable that we will be returning the value? The name of that variable will be return value. And that's what I have put it before I exit out the function. This is the bare bones setup that I'm going to do. I need to have that I'm taking a value, I'm returning a character 4, and I'm going to return the value which value? Return value, which is still by itself I'm declaring a variable of size 4. So all of these are the bare bone setup. Now what is going to happen inside it? Here you set the value, set the return value. When you start the program, you set the return value to be same. Okay, so right now return is set to be as same. You are not returning it, you're still not done with this function. What is going to happen? Whatever is being passed in this variable called long, if the long is greater than this value, which is 0, then set the return value, change the return value from being same to what? To the value east. So if you are going in that direction, sorry, in my backward, if you are going in the backward direction, then you are going towards east. And if you are going further there, so you will be adding to the west. So you're just adding pluses and minuses to the just determining how you are adding, how you are subtracting. Then you're just giving us the actual output, what is happening here. So you set the value instead of same. Immediately on the next line, the value, depending upon what you passed, this value will become, it will check if value is greater than 0, then set the value to be this value. If the long is less than 0, then return this value. So if I'll compile this, because I don't have this function, if I'll compile this function, click execute, the function is now ready. So if I'll go here, and this function will actually appear in the scalar valued function. It will not appear in the table valued functions. Table valued function will return a whole table. I'm returning it into a scalar valued function. So if I open it up, I see a function called scalar valued function. And as you can see, it is showing me that it will only return one value for this function. If I go to the table valued function, I did not have anything in it. If I go to aggregate function, I did not have anything in it. System function, I'm not interested in. Oh, these are some actual functions that we have already seen actually. So these are some of the functions which we have, the date and time functions that we have seen. So they are hidden here. Usually never really expanded it and check out what's inside these functions. We can definitely have one function or another that we use at some point. Security functions. Okay. Oh, I have a user ID, so I can select the user ID from there as well, which I was looking for yesterday. But so I did created a function. Now let's run this function. So just like select upper, just going to keep it here, upper. John, yeah, you know that this will going to work. I can do this with my functions. Select east or west, which is my function name. But this is my function name that I defined, so it will not be in the pink color. It is my user defined function. And if I'll say 1, what will happen? Yeah, I don't, okay, it is giving me an error, but I know I can fix it. Now I need to definitely give it the table name from where I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to select a random table from now, but it really east or west is not a function. I did created that. Oh, okay. But it's not liking my function. Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay. So what it did, it needed the column name. Did it? Oh, why it was not running then? Okay, I don't need to. It is exactly the same way I'm running it. So I don't know what I was doing wrong. Was it just like not giving the DBO in front of it? Was that making a difference? Yeah, okay. So it is requiring the full name. So DBO dot. Well, it's picky. So I will just have prefixed it with the DBO, but really actually my function is east or west. So now if I'll select this function and run it, it actually is showing me because the value is greater than 1, when it entered into this function, it set the value to be same, but next time it saw, oh, the value that is being passed for the long variable, which is expected, which you passed, it says, okay, I want to set this value to be east because value is greater than 1, value is greater than 0. Then it set this value to be the return value. Once that is done, it exits out of this because it doesn't need to go into this if block, and then it returned the value. The value is this, and this return value went into this char and then printed out. So basically that return value is printed, which is of the same data type as this size, and this size remain the same, and you are returning the return value. But here you are only returning one value. So let's say do this upper Jim. I am doing that. Okay, I can add more like that. DBO dot east to west, and then I'll say I want to pass something else, 10, and then I will say east to west, and this time I'm going to say less than 0, so I will just say -10 or -1, whichever number it works. So if I select two columns and print them out like this, yeah, it is printing John and Jim like this. If I want to do it here as well, I can say east, east, and then it will print out west. So yeah, I can do multiple at the same time. East, east, west. Obviously, this is not the best output, but I can name it as east, east, west, or whatever. But it is printing out. It is going to print out in the same row, in the same motion, not in the different rows. Okay, and then I can store this result, whatever I wanted to do, into select. Can I select it into test table? Let's do this. No, it doesn't go into a table like this. Okay, but as you saw, I'm able to run the output of this, and I added it into a into my output. So this is the way I can write it, and I can write it as so let's see if I go back to, which is a very let's say credit limit, just a function that does not really matter here, but I wanted to test it out, so I'm going to close these extra tabs that gets open because it just from dbo.customer, and I want to apply this on customer dot I want to see if the customer, obviously for most of the customer, let's see if I want to apply for the credit limit, just for testing purpose. So credit underscore limit, I want to see. So there is only one. I don't need this one. I can get rid of this. Comma star. So while it will be picking up, it will be printing out the east or west, which really doesn't make any sense. But I just wanted to make sure that my function is working. Let's say if I want to apply it to a credit limit, if the value is greater than 0, which it is, they all belong to my east side. And if the credit limit is, or maybe I can just say faulty or defaulter or something like that, I can change this. I can change the name of the functions, but I'm not going to do that right now. So when I will run this function, it will run it for this whole row that it is selecting, or the whole set of data that it is selecting. And how powerful it will be, well, if you have a where clause, if you have a join with the table, this function will only run for those number of rows that is being selected. So now if I run this, converting data type into a numeric, it did show it for a second, but it ran into some issues. But let's see what kind of output that it has showing me. It crashed after 9th row, so there is definitely a problem. But as you can see, it was printing east, 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 and then because of a negative value hit the credit limit, it changed out to be it was not able to do that, and it says that it is west because of a negative value. So I can make a function saying defaulter or something like that, or he's good, he's a good customer, he's a good customer, he's a good customer. But then we hit a customer who has a credit limit -10, so bad customer. So we can make our own function to do that. And this function, so we must be asking that why we not using case when statement. Well, case when statement will only work when you are writing the query. This function will help you in any query. So if you take this function with you when you leave the company, if this function is with you, you can apply this function to their data as well, give them good and bad. But if you have put that in a case when statement over there when you are writing the query, you will have to rethink about that what I did in case when, because case when was buried with the query. So you will have to take all the queries with you for your practices which you did for all the, because sometimes it happens when you leave from one company to another company, you always have something stored in your Google favorites or bookmarks or something that you don't want to miss out and you want to go through this. But if you have a function already made and you know, oh, I have written this kind of function before in my previous job, why don't you use that? So you can just quickly create and compile this function here, and you don't have to think about it. You just put a credit limit. You have to just use that function, and then you are there. You're ready to use it. All you need to do is to implement that function, and in that function, you have the scalar value happening. So that is one thing. Okay, so this is the function. I wanted to see where it crashed. So see what is happening, and I wanted to see what was the error message. So if I go to the messages sections, it says overflow, arithmetic overflow, converting numeric data to data type numeric. Okay, so what was in the 9th row? I'm not really here to fix the error, but I wanted to see after this 375. So I want to check what happens after row number 9. Overflow 1100. I think it is not able to comprehend anything greater than 1000. That's why it shows me overflow. But why? It shouldn't, because I have a decimal point value of I have a value of 9 and up to going up to 6 decimal places. So it should not have the issue, but it is giving me the overflow issue. So I'm going to make it 18. It should not have given me that, but I'm just gonna alter this function. So now let's run it. It ran this time. So something was, it was not able to digest. But really, 9 means 9 numbers and then 6 decimal points. But it really was crashing at 18 and 6. So I'm not able to understand why it was doing it. But I changed to 18 and then it worked. So I have to really look at what does this do. But at the moment, just leave it at that. So we have one west and all the other guys coming out as an east, or good or bad, a good credit limit or bad credit limit, however you want to name the function to be. So we can create our functions that go row by row and calculate everything for us. So I want you to create a function. Okay, voice line will be a better one. I could complicate this, but for now, anything above $50. So don't use case when statement. I want you to write a function. Anything above $50, say expensive. Anything less than $50, say cheap. You can use case when, but I'm not asking you to do use case when. I want you to create your own function. I'll keep this function example in front of you, so you have it. I can paste it into your chat box so you don't have to type it even, and you can customize it. So if you now look at this function, I named the function as credit rating or something. Up to you, you want to keep it east or west, not a problem. And then I created this function. I set the value to be none initially. And then I said if it is greater than and equals to $50, it will be a good standing, good rating. Otherwise, it will be a bad and return bad. So now when I use this function on the credit score of the customer, I did that I want to use this function called credit rating on the credit limit, and it did that for me. Good, 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 good. Then bad, and then good, 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 because all of them are above $50. If I want to apply it to a balance, then I will see a lot more good and bad. So I'll just say balance. Bad, good, bad, good. So it really, I just need to change one column and then it was done. Instead of me copying and pasting it, bunch of case when statement, changing the column name 4 times, 5 times, whatever the condition that I want to put in case when statement, I have this function and I just refer the column name. So every and then I can refer the column name and then I can have this good and bad. I can even pass the limit that on which limit that you want to show good or bad. So I will just play around a little bit more. I'll say balance limit. Balance limit. I use balance more because I wanted to show more good and bads because it was just very plain if I just used credit limit, but I will going to say that decimal, and I want to say, so I'm not stuck with the $50. I can do it on my own will, whatever I want to pass the credit limit. To make your function more and more customizable, more hard-coded values can be replaced with more variables. Every time you see a hard-coded value, try to use it as a variable. Just one extra effort for a variable and then you're done. So decimal 18,6. Let's see that. Close that out. Balance limit, and I will have to put an @ symbol to make it look better. This create has to be changed to alter because the function is already created, and this has to be changed from 50. This has to be changed to whatever I want to pass and whatever I'm passing here. Now it is more dynamic because then I'll just see that customer balance and say 50. And if I'll run this function now, based on $50, it is giving me. So now if I want to, so no, I want to see it for $100. So I will just go here. Instead of 50, I'll change it to 100. Good to go. Good, bad are automatically changed based on the limit that I provided, and now it is more dynamic. So it all depends how you want to code it. Usually, the more dynamic your code is, the more adaptive it will become. So it will go out from one system to another system. It will become more dynamic. All right, so that's all.